Welcome to episode 192 of the Women of the Military podcast. This week, my guest is Jennifer Givens. Jennifer decided to join the Navy when she was going to community college. It was something she had considered in high school, but when her dad told her she needed to take college seriously or get a job, she decided to join the military. First, she went to the Marines but knew it wasn't for her, and next she went to the Navy and told them she was ready to join, whatever it takes. She joined the Navy, served, became a mom, left the Navy, and is now back in the reserves. Before we get started with this week's interview, I wanted to let you know that next week, starting July 12th, and running for 10 weeks until September 13th, I'm doing a special series called A Girl's Guide to Military Service. It's meant to answer questions and provide advice if you're considering joining the military, and it also will include interviews from women who are earlier in the process in joining, going to boot camp, going through ROTC or officer training school, and talking to experts about education benefits, finance, fitness, and more. And so I'm really excited to work on the series, and I'm excited to partner with some amazing companies. So you'll be learning more about them in the next few weeks. But I just wanted to let you know that there'll be a new series starting next week, A Girl's Guide to Military Service, and it's all to lead up to my new book coming out September 13th. A Girl's Guide to Military Service, Selecting Your Specialty, Preparing for Success, Thriving in Military Life. You can pre-order your copy today with a link in the show notes. So come back next week for that series to hear more stories from women earlier in their journey about what led them to the military and what their experience has been so far. And I really hope that you enjoy this week's interview. So let's get started. Welcome to the show, Jennifer. I'm excited to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
So let's start with, why did you decide to join the military?
It's a little bit twofold. I guess threefold. My grandfather was in the Navy in World War II in Korea, and he talked about the fun times when he was in the military in the Navy. I grew up kind of on the water, so I thought just being out on the water and getting paid for it, that's kind of fun. And then obviously 9/11 changed a lot for those of us who were in high school at the time. So that kind of gave me a little bit more of a motivation. My family's pretty much servant leaders. My dad's a firefighter. My brother's in the military. So it kind of just seemed like something to do for somebody who wasn't quite sure what they wanted to do at the time. Graduating high school, your whole world is at your fingertips, but that was overwhelming to me. So I figured college wasn't quite for me just yet, and I didn't want to stay in Bakersfield, which is where I'm from. So the best thing in my eyes was I'll just join the military. And then the movie Top Gun just came out, and it actually reminded me of my brother and I talking about going to the military when we were young. So I guess that had influence on it, but mostly it was just my family having the influence on me and not really knowing what I wanted to do. And I figured joining the Navy and getting paid to figure it out and travel wasn't the worst case scenario for me.
That makes a lot of sense. So you had a number of different factors that kind of pushed you toward the Navy, family, movie Top Gun, that the second one just came out. How did you go about it? You enlisted, right? Because you said you weren't ready for college. So did you get with a recruiter while you were still in high school, or did you start looking after graduation? What was the process like?
So I was attending junior college. And in Bakersfield, the Army Marines is pretty heavily recruited. But I remember just being the Navy was it for me. I thought about being a Marine. And then when I went and talked to a Marine recruiter, it was just I'm a very petite female. So it was more of just walking in the door and them just saying, yeah, that's not going to work too well for you. And the Navy was right next door. And I was like, you know what? The Navy's in my family. I had uncles that were in the military, and then the Navy was what they chose as well. So I just figured that's what I'm probably more comfortable at, is being on the water. And that's what my family's done. So why not be the first woman in my family to do it and kind of stick with the tradition? I actually sought out a Navy recruiter in Bakersfield that wasn't too far from my junior college campus. And the only reason why I did that is because my dad said, you either need to like take school serious or get a job. So I walked into a recruiter's office and I said, I'll leave whenever. What jobs can I get? And it was as soon as I can leave. So I actually didn't finish my last semester in junior college. I like literally, I think it was 2, maybe 3 months. And then I was just came home to my dad and I said, I joined the Navy. I'm leaving in a few months. So I didn't even give myself time to regret it, you can say.
And did you end up getting a career field that was a good fit? Because a lot of times when I hear people are like, I just want to get in as quickly as possible, they just are like, okay, here's a job nobody wants.
In hindsight, I definitely was like targeted for that early 2000s, like female engineer thing. But it kind of worked out perfectly for me. My dad's a firefighter. So the job I chose in the military is essentially shipboard firefighting. And like growing up in the fire department, my dad taught at the firefighting academy. He was a city fire captain. So for me, it was just like, well, that just makes a whole lot of sense, right? Like that's something I know extremely well, whether I've physically done it myself. It's just education. I just knew it. I knew the lifestyle. I knew the personalities that typically did it. I was extremely comfortable in that environment. So I didn't really look at any other jobs. When I read that one, I was like, well, that just makes sense. Like, I'll give it a go. I never crossed my mind that is not a female typical job. Like, I never even noticed that there wasn't a single female firefighter at my dad's department. It was never a thing in my family. It was never a thing really in my community. So I didn't even think about that. I was just like, oh, that sounds familiar. Let's go with that. But I loved it. I got really lucky. I really liked my job.
That's great to hear, yeah. I think it's cool that it had that family background, and I think a lot of times things that were raised around, or even like being in the military, like at the time when I was in, it was probably similar time as you because I was in high school and September 11th happened. There weren't a lot of women in the military, but it wasn't like, I don't know, it was different than today. It wasn't like so highlighted. It was just kind of like, oh yeah, you're very few, but they didn't like talk about it and highlight it in the way that I feel like today it's a lot, there's more women, but it's like more focused on how few women there are in the military. And so it kind of brings about more scrutiny and more focus, which makes it harder instead of just like maybe we stood out because we looked a little bit different, but I feel like it was just the way it was and we didn't really think a lot about it.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably the best way to describe it is like it wasn't a big deal, I guess. Like, not saying that it's not important, right? Like diversity, inclusion on all fronts is important, but if it's just not pointed out to you, then you just don't really think about it. Like, I remember even going to like A school. So I went to boot camp and I was in an integrated division, so men and women. And I was just like, all right, like this school, like there's just many as us as there is of them. And it was 50-50 split in our division. Even then, I was like, not even thinking about it. My RDCs were both male and female. Great. Like the chief in charge was a female and she was pregnant. And so I was like, okay. When I went to A school, that's when I started like, oh, okay, there's getting few women. But still, again, like just never, I don't know. Ignorance is bliss, I guess. Like I never really thought about it. Never really cared. I never was like, oh, I'm the only female here. There was only one incident where it was like very apparent that I was not necessarily welcome, but it was easy to overcome because it's just like, it was an issue for you, but it was never an issue for me. So just doing your job, being the smartest person in the room if you can, as far as like reading your instructions. I don't know. I mean, it is pointed out a lot and I don't want to say that it's not important, but for me, it was just never until late, like much later in my career, was it ever an issue.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like, it is important and it's important that we're talking about it. And like, I'm not discounting that. I just am like, it's so much harder when there's like a flashlight shined on you instead of just being hidden among everyone. It was like I deployed with the Army and I was in the infantry. I was an Air Force person and I didn't know there were jobs that like, I knew women weren't supposed to be in combat, but I didn't really know what that meant. And so when I was attached to an infantry unit, I didn't know that like I wasn't supposed to be there. And no one ever told me because I don't know, like maybe they thought that I understood like why it was such a unique job. I don't know. And I just didn't think about it. And like, then years later, they started talking about how women were going to, for the first time, be an infantry branch. And I was like, I did that and no one even told me I wasn't supposed to be there. And so I didn't ever second guess if I was supposed to be there because I was doing the job the military trained me to do. And I think when they put words around it of like, women aren't supposed to be there, or can they do it, instead of just saying, this is your job, go do it, and they don't worry about your gender, it really makes it a lot harder because then you can feel like you're fighting an uphill battle.
Yeah. I'm not to say that it wasn't ever pointed out that I was the only female or one of very, very few. I mean, it definitely was pointed out, but I kind of just chose not to care. Like, yeah, I vividly remember somebody coming up to me and being like, oh, there's a female in the room. I was like, do you care? Because I don't care. Like, just treat me as just one of the guys. And if something bothers me, I'll say something. But realistically, I mean, we're all here to do the same job. We're all standing the same watches. We're all missing our family. We're all tired. We're all hungry. We all haven't showered. We all haven't slept. Like, I don't know. It just becomes less and less of an issue. And maybe I'm just different or from a different generation. But I didn't want to spend my time focusing on that I was a female. I was just trying to do my job. And I wanted to be the best at it,
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So let's talk about your career. You already talked about boot camp and A school, but was there anything that happened at either of those that you wanted to talk about, or we can dive into your first assignment?
No, I mean, I had typical A school, and then my first ship, I was on a pre-com, which was pretty cool. It's a brand new ship, and you get to be the first crew to ever sail it. So that was really neat. That was the USS Greeley, DDG 101. And the kind of the cool thing is my grandfather's first ship when he was in the Navy was a pre-com. So our careers, coincidentally, were very paralleled with each other, which is great. So that was the first time where I was like, oh, I am a girl. Because my chief, like, fantastic guy, still a great friend, was just like not used to having so many women, I guess, in engineering. So at first he was kind of a little skeptical because I am very small and you're doing firefighting and other things where you're expected to carry things. And so I definitely noticed that he saw me and was like, great, what am I going to do with this petite thing? But that quickly changed and fit in perfectly. Got to go to a lot of schools, which was great. So you get to learn a lot when you're on a pre-com because you're not immediately tasked into assignments because the ship's not outfitted. So I got to learn a whole lot really early on, which really set me up, I think, for the rest of my career as far as I loved to learn. I loved going to schools. They always joke the Navy, like, never again volunteer yourself. And I'm always like, I'll do it. What do you need? Let me try that. Let me go to this school. Like, I just liked learning stuff. It was fun. Like, you're there to learn, you're there to do your job. And if it's free, essentially, why not go to the schools? So I went to a bunch of schools, got to do a pre-com, which is awesome because that's not very common. Not everybody gets to do that. So that was a really fun starting point of my career. And I just got really blessed. I had a fantastic crew, from the chief's mess to the wardroom and everybody in between. I mean, it was a really great crew to start off my career. And I think that had a significant influence on my outlook for the Navy for the rest of my career, because I've heard that's not the case for some people. So for me to have such a great first experience, my first introduction to the Navy, that really set me up for a long time of success, I think.
Yeah, I think the first assignment and the people that you work for can have such a big impact on the rest of your career if you decide to stay, if you don't, or everything in between, just because that first assignment is your first experience really in the military, and it shapes how you view the military, because the things that happen there are kind of like how you can view the rest of your career, because you don't really know the military until you're in the military. Even if you're a military brat, you like kind of know, but you don't really know until you're in. And then that experience is so foundational. So that makes a lot of sense. So how long you said pre-con means it's a brand new ship. So what does that mean? It was built, but it still needed to be like outfitted with like munitions and that sort of thing? Or is there other Navy things that I don't know about?
No, you're right. So the shipyard I was at is Bath, Maine. So it's still there. And talk about like learning from the best, right? These people build Navy ships. They know everything. Most of them are veterans themselves. So you actually get to learn from the people who build the things, which is really fun and exciting. I absolutely love that. And when I got there, the ship was already in the water, but it wasn't, it was outfitted with the engineering equipment and most of the technology, all the things that you need to sail a ship, right? We didn't have our weapon systems that actually gets put in San Diego, where we eventually home ported. So we had all the basics, and you move in everything though, like all the beds, all the firefighting equipment, which was all mine. Everything's new. So they drop Conex boxes on the pier or on the flight deck, and you're literally just moving in everything that you need to run that ship, like all the cooking, all the utensils. I mean, you name it. If it's not bolted down and welded down, you're putting that sucker in there. So that was, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's exhausting. Like that is hard work. That is long, long hours. And I vividly remember just literally blood, sweat, and tears. Like my best friend, Chris, he was also damage controlman. I mean, I remember him and I just being like, all right, like just leaning on each other, taking probably like 5 to 10 minute stealing little ounces of sleep that we could. And it's winter. So we did this all in like Maine winter. And I'm like I said, I'm from Bakersfield. I didn't even have like a proper jacket when I got there. I'm like, oh, my pea coat's great. No, that doesn't cut it at all. So we did all of this in the snow in full winter in Maine. So you're cold, you're tired, but talk about rewarding. I mean, the ownership that you feel on that ship, because you're literally outfitting it with everything that you need. And then when you finally get to sail it, it's just this like pure relief and extreme pride that it's literally your baby. Like I call that ship my first child because of the amount of work that went into that ship.
Yeah, that's really cool. I've never really heard like what happens when a ship's brand new. And so it's really interesting to hear like how much of your blood, sweat, and tears went into making the final, like building the ship is one thing, but then there's still a lot more work to be done and a lot more to learn about. And the pride of taking it out to sea for the first time, like that just sounds like I get goosebumps thinking about like what that must have been like.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I could say that it was fun, but it was the worst seas that like from the captain down had ever experienced. So we were just sickness flooded the ship for about a couple days. Luckily, I had grown up on the water. I was okay. I mean, I was feeling it, but I didn't get sick, luckily. So I wish I could say, oh, it was magical, like we went underway and it was beautiful. No, people were really sick for a while, but it was still fun. It was so much fun.
The reality of life instead of like the movies where everything's calm seas and everyone's so happy. It's like, no, everyone's like puking everywhere.
Yeah. Full of winter storm.
Yeah, that's great. That's crazy. So was the first place that you guys went to San Diego, and how did you go to get there?
So we sailed out of Maine, and then our commissioning, the ship christening, was in Miami, Florida, actually during the Superbowl when it was there. And our CO went to college in Florida. So it was really fun. I wasn't 21, so I didn't get to partake in like all the fun, but we still got to do a lot of things. We got to meet some celebrities and show like tons of tours on the ship. I was so junior that my job was just to wake up and clean, make sure that it was good for people who actually were important to give the tours. But it was a really cool experience. And you have this like beautiful traditional ceremony where the crew gets to man the rails for the first time. So we're in full dress uniform. You get to run on board the ship, man the rails, and they get to officially make it a USS ship. So that was really cool to be part of that. And I love traditions. I think that's why I love the military so much, because just the rich history and traditions. So to be part of that was just really, really fun to see that. And then once it's commissioned, then you sailed down. So we sailed from Miami down through the Panama Canal back to San Diego. We went to Cartagena, Colombia, which was really cool. And then Panama, which was great. Going through the canals was very long. very, very long. Military is not necessarily a paying customer. So like cruise ships were cutting us off like left and right. And you're just sitting there waiting forever. But it was really cool to go through it and to see that, the engineering and the mechanics behind the canal.
Yeah, that sounds so cool. I know the Navy is, like, you were talking about how you were cleaning because you were junior enlisted, and, like, it is really hard work as you're in the lower ranks, but you get to go to such cool places and see the world in ways that so many people don't. It's just so fascinating, and I just love hearing the stories.
Yeah, I mean, you're underway for who knows how long, and then those 2 days, man, if you get 2 days off the ship, you really my grandfather gave me fantastic advice. He said, the daytime is meant for sightseeing. The nighttime, if you must, you can go to a bar. So I was never of age, not that it mattered in some countries, but I definitely grew up traveling. So I'm a fantastic tourist in the sense that I want to see the sights. I want to see the history. I want to see the culture. I'll eat the food if I must. I just won't ask what it is. And I love that because I actually got to see the places I was and experience the culture, where that's not the case for a lot of people. Some people just get off the boat. They want to eat, they want to drink, and that's fine. Like, it's a lot of hard work. And some people just, at the end of the day, don't want to be a tourist. But I did. I lived it up, and I made sure I got as much of the culture as I possibly could.
Yeah, that sounds really cool. So then when you got to San Diego, they had to put the weapon systems on. Is that what you said?
Yep. So you go from the yards back to the yards, and then they put in all the other equipment that we couldn't do in the shipyard. So that takes a while. That's pretty miserable. Being in the yards is rough because you're not living on a ship anymore. You live on a barge, and it's not the funnest time in the world, but it's necessary. It's necessary part of the job, right? Like, ship can't get underway if they don't have weapon systems, and that's literally your job. So we did that, and then finally got underway, did our pre-deployments. I had gotten married in between all of that, and after our workups, I actually found out I was pregnant with my daughter. So all this work into this brand new ship, doing all the work, the workups, getting it ready to go on its first deployment, and I didn't even get to go. I was so sad. I was like on the pier, and I remember this like woman came up to me and she's like, "Oh, are you going to miss your husband?" I was like, "No, I miss my ship and my crew. Like, I'm supposed to be out there." I actually tried to like not tell anybody I was pregnant and just sneak on deployment and just, see what happens. But I ended up getting really sick, so I had to get taken off the ship.
That's such a bummer. One of the challenges from being a woman in the military is getting pregnant and like doing all those workups and then not getting to go on the deployment. Was your spouse in the Navy? Did he go on the deployment? Or
he did? Yep. He was on the ship, and he was leaving, and I was left behind and super upset. Definitely was no intention of having kids. Like, that was very far from my mind. But life happens when you're planning, I guess. So unplanned, but I got to go to SWRMC, which is Southwest Regional Maintenance Center. I got to teach over there, got to do some training, take more education on. And then I got to see a different side of the Navy, really, after that. Being on the ship and just working, like keeping your head down. You're not really focused on the Navy or other people and everything. You're very kind of like, it's a tiny little village, and you're just focused on your village. So when you get out of the ship, you're kind of exposed to a whole other side. So seeing a bunch of pregnant females and watching them go through their pregnancies, and then them try to go back to the ship or figure out what they're going to do next. That was interesting to me and fascinated me to see just different levels of motivations for people. Some that, once they have a child, that's it, they're done. They want to get out as soon as possible. People like me that were like, oh, this is just part of life and just going to keep doing my job because I like it. And then other people where they just have a bad experience and they get out or move on or have different reasons for things. So just being part of that early on really fascinated me because I didn't necessarily love how pregnant sailors were being treated, as far as just like kind of put them off into this like group and just forget about it. And I didn't like that. So I had an opportunity to change that in the sense that those of us that wanted to stay in the military, that were very motivated, we didn't get to work in our jobs anymore. So came up, myself and a few other men and women came up with in-rate training so we can continue to evolve our careers regardless if we were in them or not. So that was fun to do, and be part of and be at a command that was really open to new ideas of not just treating pregnant sailors as a nuisance, as far as like we're still a contributing factor to this force. So I still had knowledge to give. I still had things to learn. And there were people around me that were supportive of that. So that was interesting. I didn't necessarily love it at first, but instead of being upset about it, you have to figure out a way to fix it. So we ended up creating like a whole new path for pregnant sailors that wanted to stay motivated. And for those that wanted to get out for various reasons, helping them too, to kind of figure out like what's next for them.
That sounds really interesting. And that's like when life gives you lemons, you can like take it and be sad, or you can make lemonade. And like, I like how you took, it sounds like it wasn't a very good situation where they kind of expected everyone who's pregnant to get out. And so they just pushed you guys in the corner and you guys were like, no, not all of us want to do that. And even if they want to get out, we want to like help people like transition and get ready for success.
Yeah. I mean, I can't speak for what it is now, but at that command, there was definite support, but people that like wanted for that not to be the case, but just didn't, either they were male and they haven't been through it, or they just didn't have, I guess, enough motivated women to just take the initiative and be like, you know what, we got this. Like, you support us, we'll take care of the rest. And so once that was established, we actually had a fantastic group of women from all different ranks that stepped up, and men that came in and were like, how can I help? Like, how can I be part of this? And it was pretty great. I mean, you can't just be like, oh, woe is me. You know, I'm pregnant and I have no support. Like, just make your support, find support. Like, it's always out there.
Yeah. And I love that it was men, women, different ranks, everybody coming together and finding a solution and moving forward. So at the end of your pregnancy, your daughter was born. Then what happened next in your career?
Then I had another child. So, I mean, oh man, talk about like just, you can't plan life. You really cannot. I remember when I joined, I was like talking to one of my RDCs, and she's a fantastic woman, terrifying woman, but just fantastic. And she was like, you know, don't be one of these sailors that just gets knocked up and gets out. She's like, make something of yourself. And I was like, okay. So I was like, well, I'm never having kids then. And then lo and behold, like I had 2 in less than a year, but it ended up being perfect, right? I like knocked it out. I got it done. And I went right back to the ship. I mean, I literally went on deployment 2 days after my son's first birthday. I was not waiting. I tried getting on a ship earlier, and my command was like, there's a thing called postpartum. Just take it. So literally, before I even actually checked in to go on deployment, the ship that I was going to be on was in San Diego. And I actually went on board and worked for a week. And I was like, hey, I'm coming. You don't really have my orders yet, but I'm coming. So kind of set that. And then when I went and checked in, we left for deployment. It was literally 2 days after my son's first birthday. And the Navy regulation at the time was you get a whole year. So I literally almost to the day was like out.
I thought that, well, at least the way it's supposed to be in the Air Force is that if the mom wants to go sooner, they can. But it sounds like the Navy's pretty strict about not, or maybe just that command was that way. Maybe it's the commander's discretion more than the woman's discretion, which should be the other way around.
I think it was more of, I had a really great command master chief, and he's like, just enjoy like being with your kids. Like just be with your kids. He was a family man too. So he was like, just, I know you're in a hurry, but time was very valuable with babies. So he really kind of put it in perspective, like just don't rush it, just get back. And in hindsight, I'm glad he did, because you don't want to miss your kids growing up. But at the same time, like I said, I'm highly motivated to get back out there and get a deployment under my belt, because I only got a couple months to sea. I didn't get a full deployment. And when you're in for a couple years and you haven't had that experience yet, like, you know, there's a little bit of I had something to prove, and I didn't want people to perception, right? Like, oh, you went and you had babies and that was it. And it's like, no, I'm here to work. I just happen to have children.
Yeah. And was your spouse still in the military?
He was, but I at that point became a single mom.
Okay.
So my mom actually moved in with me to watch my kids while I was deployed.
I knew there was going to be some sort of challenge because it's so hard. Dual military, single parent, like those are the challenges that women face in the military oftentimes. And so your mom was able to come and watch your kids. And did she stay with you after the deployment, or was it just for like the deployment period of time?
No, she stayed with me actually for a couple years. So the ship I went on, we actually had 2 deployments back to back. So we did a 7, I think it was almost shy of 8 months. And then we came home for a few months and then we went right back out. So I missed my daughter's 2nd birthday and her 3rd birthday. Yeah, it was deployment. And then once that was